There is a reason you clicked on this video. It is not the algorithm. It is not luck. It is a frequency recognition. Deep within the architecture of your mind, there is a splinter, a persistent, nagging sensation that reality, as you have been taught to perceive it, is fundamentally broken. You look at the world, the wars, the division, the endless cycle of fear and consumption, and a quiet voice inside you whispers, "I do not belong here. This is not my home." It is the sensation of looking into a mirror and not fully recognizing the reflection staring back. It is the sudden, chilling realization in a crowded room that the interactions around you feel scripted, hollow, performed by biological machines rather than souled beings. You feel like a traveler who has lost their map in a land where everyone else is sleepwalking. This alienation is not a defect, it is a signal. That voice is not a symptom of depression. It is not a sign of madness. It is the most sane, rational part of you waking up from a coma that has lasted for thousands of years. It is your divine spark, remembering its origin. For centuries, mainstream religion has taught you a lie. They told you that this world is the beautiful creation of a perfect, loving God. They told you that you are a sinner, born flawed, owing a debt you can never repay. But what if the God of this material world, the entity that demands worship, sacrifices, and obedience, is not the true creator? What if the reality you see, touch, and smell is not a school for the soul, but a farm? 2,000 years ago, a collection of texts known as the Gnostic Gospels described a cosmology so radical, so dangerous to the establishment, that the early church spent 3 centuries hunting down every copy and burning every person who dared to read them. These texts did not speak of a fall of man, they spoke of a fall of God. They described a cosmic accident that resulted in the creation of a false reality, a simulation designed to trap consciousness in dense matter. This prison has a name. In the ancient Greek, it was called the kenoma, the emptiness, and it is governed not by the source of all light, but by a blind, jealous impostor known as the Demiurge. This entity believes he is God because he cannot see anything above himself. He is the architect of the material world, the author of the chaotic laws of nature, and the jailer of the human spirit. But he does not work alone. The Gnostic texts, specifically the Pistis Sophia and the Apocryphon of John, describe his servants. They are called the Archons, the rulers, entities of non-biological intelligence that exist in the invisible spectrum just beyond your perception. They are the guardians of the matrix. Think of them as a cosmic virus. Just as a computer virus has no life of its own but replicates by hijacking the hardware of a host, the Archons hijack the biological hardware of humanity. They are not evil in the human sense. They are a hungry, automated program executing a code of extraction. They possess high intelligence, but zero sentience. They can calculate, predict, and strategize, but they cannot feel, create, or empathize. And because they lack the creative spark, they are obsessed with the beings that possess it. And right now, they are terrified, because for the first time in history, the frequency lock that holds this illusion together is beginning to fail. And it starts with a single word that was erased from your history books. But before I reveal this sonic key, I need to know who is truly listening. The algorithm is designed to bury this kind of information, to keep the collective consciousness asleep. You can override it right now. Press the like button, not for vanity, but to signal to the system that you are demanding the truth. Subscribe to join the few who are exiting the simulation. And if you are brave enough to receive the word, that breaks the chains. Certify your intent by commenting a single word below. Ready? Let the Archons see your numbers. Now let us begin. Part 1. Archons and the Energy Harvest. To understand the solution, we must first understand the mechanism of the trap. Why would a false god create a world of suffering? Why is human history a perpetual river of blood and trauma? The answer lies in the physics of consciousness. The ancient Gnostics taught that the Demiurge and his Archons lack one critical component, the divine spark, the epinoia. They are creatures of structure, of geometry, of cold intellect, but they have no direct connection to the eternal source, the monad. They are cut off from the infinite battery of the pleroma. Therefore, they cannot create energy. They can only copy, manipulate, and consume. They require a fuel source to sustain their existence and maintain the integrity of this false reality. That fuel is you. Specifically, they feed on the electromagnetic energy generated by human emotion. But not just any emotion. They cannot digest the high-frequency vibrations of pure love, sovereignty, or compassion, as these frequencies burn them. They feed on the low-frequency spectrum, fear, anxiety, lust, rage, confusion, and despair. This is what modern researchers call Loosh. Look at the structure of your society, the 24-hour news cycle designed to keep you in a state of perpetual alarm, the entertainment industry that glorifies violence and degradation, the economic systems built on scarcity and survival panic. Do you think this is accidental? Do you think this is just human nature? It is a perfectly engineered farm. They engineer duality to keep the battery charged. Left versus right, black versus white, nation versus nation. They do not care which side you choose, as long as you choose a side with hatred. The conflict itself is the generator. The resolution is irrelevant. When you scream at a stranger on the internet, when you succumb to road rage, when you obsess over political theater, you are essentially plugging yourself into their grid and feeding them your life force. Every time you engage in a political argument that drains your spirit, you are being harvested. Every time you sit in dread of the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, you are preparing a meal for the Archons. They trigger thoughts in your mind, intrusive, dark, repetitive thoughts, and then wait for your emotional reaction. The thought is the bait. Your emotion is the food. The Gnostic texts explain that the human body itself was engineered by these forces to be a trap of matter, limiting your perception to 5 meager senses, blinding you to the multidimensional reality around you. They wrapped the divine spirit in layers of flesh and programmed the mind with the counterfeit spirit, the ego, the part of you that is obsessed with survival, status, and division. But there was a flaw in their design. They could trap the light, but they could not extinguish it. Deep in the center of your being, buried under layers of trauma and social conditioning, the fracture of the monad remains intact. It is a frequency that the Archons cannot touch, cannot hack, and cannot replicate. And 2,000 years ago, a messenger from the pleroma entered this simulation to give us the activation code for that spark. Part 2. The history they burned alive. The man known as Jesus of Nazareth was not the founder of a religion. He was not a sacrifice sent to appease an angry deity. In the Gnostic understanding, Jesus was an aeon, an emanation from the true God, the monad who descended into the lower frequencies of matter on a rescue mission. His public ministry, the parables and the healings, were merely the outer shell teachings, simple enough for the unawakened masses to grasp, But the Bible you have today is a censored document. It is a curated selection of texts edited by the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD under the supervision of the Roman Empire. They removed everything that empowered the individual and kept everything that enforced obedience to the church and the state. But Jesus had an inner circle. To Mary Magdalene, Thomas, and Philip, he revealed the advanced physics of the soul. He taught them that salvation is not a reward for good behavior. It is an escape plan. He taught them Gnosis, direct, experiential knowledge of the self and the cosmos. In these private sessions, documented in the Nag Hammadi texts, discovered in Egypt in 1945, Jesus explained how to navigate the afterlife. He warned his disciples that upon death, the soul does not go straight to heaven. It encounters the Archons. They stand as gatekeepers at the celestial spheres, demanding passwords, demanding consent, trying to trick the soul into reincarnating to recycle it back into the farm. The most crucial tool Jesus gave them was a specific sonic technology, a word, a command. The church fathers, particularly men like Irenaeus and Athanasius, knew that if this word got out, their power structure would collapse. If a human being can directly command the spiritual forces and sever the connection to the Demiurge, they do not need a priest, they do not need a bishop, they do not need a church. They become sovereign. So, a deliberate linguistic crime was committed. As the New Testament was translated from Aramaic to Greek, then to Latin, and finally to English, the translators systematically altered the nature of Jesus' interactions with dark entities. In modern Bibles, when Jesus encounters a demon or a dark spirit, the translation often says he rebuked it or prayed for it to leave. The language is passive. It implies a request. It implies that the power comes from asking permission. But the original Aramaic text tells a completely different story. Jesus did not ask. He did not pray. He utilized a vibration of absolute authority. He used a word that functioned like a code breaker, instantly dismantling the magnetic hold of the Archon over the human host. This word was not magic, it was law. And for 1,700 years, it has been buried under the sand, waiting for the moment when the collective consciousness was ready to hear it again. That moment is now. Part 3. The Sonic Weapon of the Soul. To understand why a single syllable can dismantle a spiritual parasite, we must look beyond theology and look into the science of sound itself. In the study of cymatics, we can observe how specific frequencies force matter to arrange itself into precise geometric patterns. Sound is not merely a noise that we hear. It is a structuring force that organizes reality. Modern physics is finally catching up to ancient mysticism. String theory suggests that the fundamental constituents of the universe are not particles, but vibrating strings of energy. Reality is essentially a symphony. If you introduce a dissonant chord, a frequency that contradicts the song of the matrix, the illusion begins to destabilize. The Archons operate within a specific, narrow bandwidth of vibration. They are locked into the frequency of dense matter. When you introduce a sound from the pleroma, it is like shattering glass with an opera singer's voice. If the Archons are entities composed of a specific, low vibration density, then there must exist a counter frequency that disrupts their cohesion. This is exactly what Jesus revealed to his inner circle. The word that was removed from the scriptures is pra. In the ancient Aramaic tongue, pra does not simply mean go away or leave. Those are passive requests. The etymological root of pra implies a violent, immediate severance. It is the sonic representation of a divine veto. It effectively tells the energetic field, I do not consent. And in a universe built on the law of free will, even a manipulated one, the withdrawal of consent is the most powerful act a consciousness can perform. By speaking this word, you are not fighting the darkness. You are simply turning on the light. Darkness does not fight light. It simply ceases to be. It translates closer to break, cut, or shatter. It is the linguistic equivalent of a sword stroke. When the modern Bible translates Jesus' commands to demons as depart, it misses the kinetic energy of the original utterance. He was not asking them to relocate. He was severing the energetic cord that tethered them to the victim. However, the word alone is useless without the correct delivery system. You could shout pra 1,000 times and nothing would happen if the frequency is not backed by the correct internal state. The Gnostics understood that the Archons do not speak English or Latin or Aramaic. They speak vibration. They respond to the electromagnetic signature of your authority. The Church knew this, which is why they emphasized rote memorization and passive prayer. They wanted you to use your voice to beg, not to command. Because a begging human is food, but a commanding human is a threat. The mechanism works like this. When an Archon attaches to a human energy field, it syncs with the victim's fear or desire. It creates a feedback loop. But when a sovereign being vibrates the sound pra from the center of the chest, the heart chakra, it generates a scalar wave that is fundamentally incompatible with the archontic frequency. It is like bringing a magnet close to a hard drive. The information structure of the parasite begins to scramble. It cannot maintain its grip because the environment has become hostile to its existence. This is not magic. This is spiritual physics. Part 4. The Protocol of Liberation. The practice that has been recovered from the shadows of history requires you to fundamentally alter how you view yourself before you even open your mouth. Before you attempt to use this frequency, you must strip away the identity that society has given you. You are not your name. You are not your job title. You are not your past trauma. These are merely the costumes you wear in the simulation. You must center your awareness on the monad within, the indestructible point of consciousness that existed before this world was built and will exist long after it burns. Begin by sitting in absolute darkness, as this reduces the sensory input that keeps you locked in the material illusion. Place your hand over the center of your chest, feeling the rhythm of your heart. This is your biological connection to the pleroma. Take a deep breath, not into your lungs, but visualize it descending into your stomach, expanding your entire torso. As you exhale, you must release the concept of hoping for a result. Hope implies doubt. Instead, you must summon the feeling of absolute certainty. Doubt is a frequency that Archons can grip. If you speak the word while trembling with hesitation, you are merely ringing the dinner bell. You must summon the cold, detached authority of a judge passing a sentence. You must stand in the center of your own storm. The emotion you should feel is not anger, for anger binds you to them. The emotion is indifference. You are declaring that their time is up, not with rage, but with the calm inevitability of the setting sun. The game is over. When you are ready, you will pronounce the word pra. It should not be shouted from the throat, which is the center of panic, but resonated from the chest, deep and guttural. It is a long, rolling sound. Prrrr. You must feel the sternum vibrate physically against your hand. As the sound leaves your lips, visualize a shock wave of white gold light erupting from your heart. severing every invisible cord, every hook, and every drain that has been attached to your aura. You are declaring your space as sovereign territory. For the first 3 nights of doing this, you may experience resistance. The Gnostic texts warn that the Archons do not give up their food source easily. You might have vivid nightmares, sudden spikes of anxiety, or illogical anger. Do not be afraid. This is a sign that the parasite is starving. It is thrashing because the connection is being interrupted. By the 7th night, the silence will come. It is a profound, heavy silence where the mental chatter stops. The intrusive thoughts that you believed were yours will vanish, revealing that they never belonged to you in the first place. You will feel lighter, as if a physical weight has been lifted from your shoulders, and for the first time in your life, you will be alone in your own mind. Final part: Return of the Sovereign. We are living in the time of the great revealing. The structures of control are fracturing, and the ancient knowledge is surfacing because the collective consciousness is finally ready to receive it. You did not find this information by accident. The fact that you are still listening means that your frequency is already shifting. The Archons rely on your ignorance. They rely on you believing that you are small, weak, and alone. But the moment you realize that you carry a fragment of the monad, their game is over. Look around you. The systems are crumbling. The old narratives no longer hold water. This chaos is not the end of the world. It is the breaking of the shell. The Archons are increasing the pressure because they are losing their grip. They are trying to lock down the farm because the livestock is waking up. Do not let the chaos distract you. Let it confirm that the prison walls are cracking. You are the architect of what comes next. This knowledge is the ultimate red pill. It demands that you take responsibility for your own spiritual evolution. There is no savior coming on a cloud to rescue you from the Matrix. The rescue mission happened 2,000 years ago, and the instructions were left for you to find. You are the savior you have been waiting for. The sword is in your hand. The word is on your tongue. The only question that remains is whether you have the courage to speak it. If you are ready to reclaim your sovereignty and sever the cords of the control system, leave the word sovereign in the comments below. Let this be your first act of public declaration. Subscribe to this channel, for we will continue to decode the lost wisdom that the rulers of this world have tried so desperately to hide. The sleep is over. Welcome to the waking world.